So, being the last to be picked on the team, being the one that was ignored at the party, all of that stuff, right? How to deal with those emotions. But in sobriety, we can begin to pull back, take a pause. Is that really what's happening? Because we can be very bad psychics.
You're listening to The Recovered Life Show, the show that helps people in recovery live their best recovered lives. And here is your host, Damon Frank.
And welcome back to The Recovered Life Show. I am joined today with George Snyder, life and recovery expert. How you doing today, George?
I'm excellent. Damon Frank, how are you?
I am doing great and good to speak with you today. Another exciting episode of The Recovered Life Show. And we have an interesting topic today. I want to talk with you about taking things too personally in recovery. Huge topic in the recovery community, taking things too personally. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, speaking for myself, I'm very sensitive. I'm a very sensitive person, and I get my feelings hurt very easily. So part of life and recovery has been about learning how to deal with that. And when I know that I'm getting into it, because I start to feel like a victim, I'm starting to feel very hurt. Somebody has done something. One thing that somebody said to me is, look, no one makes you feel anything. People do stuff and you feel it. You choose to feel that way. I don't make you feel bad. I don't make you feel, but we love to say that in our day-to-day, don't we?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that are probably listening or watching here, if they're watching the show or listening to the show on the podcast, that might be in early recovery. And, there's a bunch of feelings, obviously, that are going on in early recovery. Absolutely. So it's not uncommon for people to take everything so personally. But let's speak, George, to what you would say to somebody who's been in recovery for a while and they still find themselves kind of, I'm just going to use the popular word that all the kids are using, triggered, and start taking things too personally. Triggered. What advice would you give to them?
There's a little bit of practice involved. I'll say this. I was telling you earlier, I had friends that their little boy would be out in the yard playing in the grass and he would fall. And the mother said, don't look. And I was like, what? But I realized, and they had figured out, that the first thing he did is look around, see if anybody noticed that he fell, or he tumbled. And if you looked, then he burst into tears. Why, I'm hurt. I'm in so much pain, right? If you didn't look, if you looked away like you didn't notice, he'd sort of go on. So the key here is maybe don't notice. Maybe choose. You think that somebody just rolled their eyes. You think that somebody just gave you a look. You think that somebody just tried to get you going. How about just look away and pretend you didn't notice?
Yeah, I like the idea that you're saying about choice. So many times in recovery, you have a choice. You could either go left, right, straight, backwards, right? And, the idea of identifying these feelings when they come up, and then being able to kind of put the pause button, if you will, hit the pause button, sit with it for a while without reacting.
Yeah. How about just not do anything right now? Just don't look, don't react. Give it a moment, give it a space to breathe, right? The other, you can think it through. Take it all the way to the end of the line, Did he really cut you off? Did she really mean to bump into you? I mean, when early on, anything, you're early in recovery, you feel like you've been peeled. Everything hurts, everything, your senses are on high alert. And turn the volume down. I've had to say to people I know, friends who are in early recovery, just breathe, slow down, take a breath, right? Practice.
Yeah, and I think I love what you also said about sensitivity, because it's been my own personal experience that a lot of times we'll say in life, we'll say, hey, we're so tough. We've been through so much. So many people come into recovery and they've really been beat up and they've really had 1,000 lives before they ever came in and put up with things that no one would be able to put up with, right? But yet a small little comment from a loved one, a family member, a friend, maybe even a stranger absolutely can destroy them.
Right. Yeah. Give me nuclear holocaust, I'm good. Earthquake, major disaster, I'm going to be a champ. But take my seat where I thought I was sitting, although look at me cross-eyed, and I'm suddenly a mess. Forget my name. Oh, names. And many of us are really bad at names. So it's that hypersensitivity, and it's just the walking through it. It's about building relationships with the world. Drugs and alcohol kept the world far, far distant, right? So to suddenly be present, be around people, and realizing, just ordering them from a menu, trying to make small talk. Can be really painful stuff at the beginning.
Yeah. And I think to really get deeper here, and the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you is there's certain key feelings that I think that you can you can write down things that are really going to key you off. So for example, it might be injustice, right? Mm-hmm. If you feel that you're being treated unfairly, somebody else is being treated unfairly. Sometimes it's being ignored, right? Mm-hmm. Feeling that you're being ignored, or that you're not smart, or not smart enough, or whatever it might be. There could be a myriad of different things that happen. Just identifying these feelings. We've been starting to do a lot of shows with meditation experts and awareness experts. And I think what you're saying the tip is too, is that to start being aware of the feelings you're having when you start feeling uncomfortable and when you think you're starting to take things too personally.
Right. And all the things you mentioned, Damon, are things that instances, feelings, emotions that would have driven me to drink and use when I was young. So, being the last to be picked on the team, being the one that was ignored at the party, right? All of that stuff, right? How to deal with those emotions. But in sobriety, we can begin to pull back, take a pause. Is that really what's happening? Because we can be very bad psychics. And this is something that happened to me today. I had sent a text to a friend, let's talk. Nothing. Silence. And I thought, see, nobody likes me. I'm worthless. My friendship with this person is over. But then I thought, wait, because I don't always know if that's true. So sent an email. Instant response. Absolutely. We have a conversation. And then later in the day, the text comes back. Oh, I just saw this. I don't know how I missed it. Oh. So collecting evidence sometimes, Damon, just that, you're not always sure that that's really what was intended. Maybe you're not the best judge of what just happened, right? Maybe they weren't ignoring you. How about benefit of the doubt? How about let's just give it the benefit of the doubt? Or how about we just set that aside? Let's ignore that for now because we don't really know.
Well, this worst case scenario thinking, I don't know anyone that's in recovery that's not plagued by it. And, there's plenty of people that listen to this that maybe are not in recovery. They have a loved one in recovery. So they're trying to get some tips or some little things that they can put in their tool bag to just have better relationships with people that are in recovery. And you might be saying to yourself, well, you know what? I sometimes take things personally too, but I found that things with alcoholics, people who have addiction issues, the result of what happens after they take it personally is much different. Like you were talking about the discernment, having really great discernment to say, it just could have been that person just didn't see the text, not the story behind it. There's this big story. And what I found is that in early recovery, what tends to happen is the people that know you the most and they're closest with you, and that's typically family, are the people that can actually hurt you the most with taking things personally, right? Because they might pick something out of your childhood and talk about it at a family event. And for you might have a story behind that basically brings out all kinds of feelings, but that wasn't their intention.
And for those families of people like us, sometimes early on, it's useful to do a little active listening. Honey, what did you think I just said? Because you will be surprised. What you tell the person early in recovery, the alcoholic and addict, you think you just said pass the butter. They heard you're a fucking idiot, and I'm never going to talk to you again. What? How did we hear things that may not necessarily have been said?
Yeah. And I love the idea that you're saying about being a feeling detective, really. What you're doing is, gathering this, you call it, gathering these clues and this evidence to kind of be able to see what's actually going on. Because in the moment, things seem very real. When you back up from them a little bit and you just realize, well, everybody's got their own thing, right? We're talking about being cut off in traffic. Is this really something that's personal to you? Or is this something that's really going on with somebody else that you don't really have to get so emotionally wound up in?
And is it really worth, and this you learn through experience, unfortunately, sometimes unpleasant experience, is it really worth pursuing that down the path and where this is going to lead, right? And spoil the day by pursuing the person that you think cut you off. Or having an argument with somebody when they really, because sometimes you can also be an active participant in the conversation. I'm sorry, did I hear you? Did I understand you what did you just say? But in a nice way. I think it's just possible that we can sometimes second guess ourselves right into a lot of trouble, because we're very sensitive and very ready for something bad to happen. And maybe that kind of catastrophic thinking isn't going to be very useful. Maybe let's just put that on the side.
Yeah. And I think this constant overthinking that is really plagues people in addiction. And again, I think most people that are in recovery are working on this actively, right? They're working on, interpreting their feelings, getting clues, trying to kind of discover better ways in which to have interpersonal relationships. Primarily, I think, even from a selfish view of just wanting to have better feelings and better outcomes and being able to have a little bit more control over what we bite on, right? Yeah. Because there is some people, look, there are people that just cut you off just to be a jerk. There are people who say things and they really are trying to key you off, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But being able to have that choice to be able to hit pause button, it's like, you know what? This person's really a jerk. It really doesn't have much to do with me. I've seen him be a jerk to 5 other people, and I'm going to make a choice here just to not do anything, is incredibly freeing.
Right. Incredibly freeing. And we do have more choice, I think, sometimes. I believe we have more choice than we sometimes give ourselves credit for. And we get to find that out. A lot of stuff I can ignore today that I couldn't when I first came in, but it came from practice. And in retrospect, nobody was looking. Nobody thought you got hurt. It's fine. It's not child abuse just to look away when somebody tumbles. You can just know that all they wanted was the butter passed. Okay, that we don't need World War III at the dinner table. It's fine.
Yeah, it's really funny because when you think about this, George, you have a bunch of sensitive people hanging out with a bunch of sensitive people. The fact that anybody that has, that's in recovery can get together with other people in recovery is an absolute miracle anyway, that there's not an absolute riot and people running out with hard feelings totally. So I think it's this active working on it. I don't think things go away. Last week somebody said something and it was crushing to me. And the person didn't even realize that they said it. And after I used these clues, I started to build the clues and I said, you know what? This has nothing to do with me. Why am I getting so enrolled in this? It's like a fish on a line. I'm thinking about it for an hour. It's like, why is that person saying that to me? What were they thinking? Were they planning on saying it? And, it was just so ridiculous. I had to kind of laugh at the end of it. Not that I take the bait all the time now. I don't. Most of the time I don't. I just let it just kind of wash over me and just say, oh, whatever, right? But this one I did, and I'm like, I wasted an hour trying to turn this into a resentment that really only existed with me. It did, and nothing was going on. And I find it's really kind of when you're able to kind of step back, use some of these mindfulness techniques that we're talking about in Recovered Life, use some of these meditation techniques. I feel that the gap widens with that pause button. I can wait longer to hit the pause button. I can see what's going on. I can then hit the pause button, stay in neutral for a longer period of time now. But that's really come with practice, right? You're not going to get that overnight.
No. And it comes from, frankly, a lot of it. I think we make a lot of progress when we start getting bored. It's exhausting. Do I really want to do, what's the buzz? What's the payoff for this? At the beginning, that urge to vent, to rage, to feel, to everything was huge. But it gets boring after a while. Also exhausting. And so it's really not worth it. Well, how about just relax? How about just calm down? And I think, and laugh. Also, I think, we get it. Have you ever been you're in the middle of a fight, angry, and then you just start laughing. And it's like, well, emotions then can change. They're not necessarily always connected to this deep and tragic. It was never necessarily invested in something deep and tragic. It can change in a heartbeat. And that shift. And so, maybe you just go with a laugh. Maybe just go with this, I don't want to do it. It's exhausting.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, George, and talk with you about, because I find this interesting. The concept of the feeling of starting to take it personally, and then kind of in the awareness that you're getting rolled, that you're taking it personally, the realization, the question that somebody told me years ago, and I do this a lot. I actually ask, is it true? Because sometimes I find that the people that are close enough to you, they might be saying things and they want you to take it personally because maybe it's a character defect. Maybe you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing, right? Or you're making people feel a way that you shouldn't be saying. That whole other added little step. Look, maybe it's true. If I'm hearing this 5 times a day from people and people I don't know, maybe there's some truth in this. And maybe the reason why I'm so upset about what they said is really, the personal thing here, and no one wants to talk about this, but maybe it's true. I had an attorney tell me a long time ago, he said, it's not a problem that somebody calls you a jerk. He says it's a problem that 5 people call you a jerk all at the same time. That's a problem. Right?
Absolutely. Well, there is that fear. Again, the hypersensitivity is associated with a sense of fear that they might be right. That you might be, that maybe they don't like you. Maybe they do think you're a jerk. Maybe you did cross a line there. Maybe you are worthy of being ignored or not special or not the first in the line, and whatever it may be. That sense of much rage and anger comes from a sense of injustice, that they are accusing me of something, but then underneath it is the fear. They're accusing me of something that maybe it might be true.
Exactly. Well, a good example of this, George, is I had a buddy call me several months ago, and he was super upset that a family member indicated basically through a series of conversations that he didn't follow through, that he wasn't really super reliable.
Ooh.
And at the end of the conversation is going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And he asked me, he's like, am I reliable? And I'm like, no, you're not really reliable. What the person said to you has some truth in it. And, what then came out later is he'd kind of let this person down a bunch of times and didn't really know how to kind of repair that. Like, he was embarrassed about it. He had kind of let this person down. He really loved this person, but he'd let them down, and he didn't really have the tools to come out and say, hey, I let you down. And I'll try to be better this time, right? So he was super sensitive.
Super sensitive.
She says that. He keys off, right? It's drama. And he even got a little mad at me, but after calming down a little bit, he said, you know what, I do have a pattern in, not following through with these people. And I'm saying, so you know what? So maybe that's something to work on and to address with them, as opposed to taking it personally, creating, this vendetta you're going to have against these people now, and being weird for years when they have no idea what's actually going on with you, how you feel about it.
And that takes some work and practice and courage to get to that level of, could this be an opportunity for me to hear something important? And I had somebody say that everything out there, everything that happens to you, George, everything that's coming your way is an opportunity for you. You could learn something. You could find out something. But if you're going to react with, you have hurt me, I've been triggered, this is not good, you're just defending yourself against an opportunity to have a new experience, right? That's hard, though. I mean, you can't at the beginning, and there are certain questions I always remember for which there's no good answer. Does this dress make me look fat? You just fake a heart attack. Don't answer that question. There's no good answer. And so there are trick questions, and there's just nothing good will come of it. So,
this has been a really great show. Thank you so much. I love this topic because, most people, honestly, most people in recovery don't talk about this. No. It's funny. They'll talk about fear. They'll talk about resentment a lot, right? But they won't talk about the thing that sets all of this off. And that typically is some sort of feeling of not being treated fairly, taking things super personal, many times when it has nothing to do with you, right?
Nothing at all. Feeling, and they'll say feelings aren't facts. That may be, but they can sure feel real. And that's where we get to practice.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Damon. Fun.
All right. And we're going to continue on the conversation on the Recovered Life Show or the recoveredlife.us. So go ahead and log in there. If you're not a member, we've got great conversations, and we're going to actually tag George in the show notes. So if you want to continue the conversation with George, he'll start a thread here in Recovered Life, and we'll see you online. Thanks so much, George.
Thank you. Bye.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.